So, welcome to today's session, Mastering Complex Cloud Migration Strategies, Challenges and Best Practices. Whether you are a business leader, technical architect, project manager or consultant, cloud migration touches all aspects of modern business. I'm Santtu, a cloud architect for over 10 years of experience in designing and executing cloud strategies. I've seen firsthand how the cloud transformed industries, but I've also witnessed the complexities what comes when migrating to the cloud. Today, we are going to dive into strategies, challenges and best practices that can make or break your migration project. Joining me are two experts, Paula, seasoned project manager, and Tero, senior cloud advisor. Together, we will explore the various aspects of a cloud migration and answer the most pressing questions. We will address the cloud migration through an example project, a real-life project where we helped Väylävirasto, Finnish Transport Infrastructure Agency, to migrate application to AWS. So, here is Harja and where we started. Name of the application, Harja, or Broom in English. Harja is meant for helping public transformation in infrastructure maintenance, so keeping the roads safe, keeping the chain, making the roads secure for us citizens. The application is a complex business-critical software that has been around roughly 10 years already. And to give an idea, it serves thousands of users and have over 15 integrations. As said, Harja is business-critical software and the core processes must be available 24/7. And actually that was one motivation for migration to the cloud. High availability and scalability of the system. Another one was enhanced security through AWS architecture. The target deadline for the migration project was May 2024. Hard deadline because old servers hit end of life July 2024, and because of mitigating that risk, the deadline for the migration project was a hard one. At the same time, Harja development team had backlog full of feature items with similar hard deadlines. So we can go for the timeline then. Here, the important aspect to remember is the timeline for the whole migration is wider than the migration project itself. There are activities before the migration project starts, but also after the project has gone to production. Activities before the migration project plays an utmost important role for the migration project success. And the cornerstone for those activities is the migration assessment analysis. In Harja's case, the assessment helped to set important project variables, cost, timeline, scope, and it gave a rough plan for the team to start with. So here's the assessment analysis then. So, what is assessment analysis? The migration assessment begins with getting to know the software, the technical and business drivers for the migration. And of course, it is known that there are all common challenges with almost every migration there is. So, systems have technical dependencies to other systems. Systems have multiple stakeholders. Systems have data to migrate and then real-time requirements also. People need new skilling because of the new environment. And cloud migration will result change in operational model. For example, capital expenses in on-premises data warehouses and then transfer to operational expenses in the cloud environments. And all of these issues bring complexity, risk, and potential pitfalls because there are many things to consider when leading a migration project smoothly. So that was an assessment analysis, and how did we conduct it? We did stakeholder interviews, we gone through the documentation, we facilitated workshops to confirm that all parties are at the same page. And of course, all of these works increases transparency. Potential issues and risks can be addressed already before the migration. And the outcome from the assessment is a great starting point for the migration project. The assessment clarifies the business case and includes recommendations for the migration. Those recommendations include cost, high-level roadmap, expected benefits, and mitigations for the risks identified. So what do you think, Tero? Why is assessment study so important, and why should customer pay for it?
Good question, Santtu. There will always be uncertainties and surprises during the migration, but the amount of uncertainties and magnitude of surprises can be decreased. Without investing time in migration pre-study, the risk level is significantly higher. Migration assessment provides decent framework and foundation for the evaluation of the migration in terms of scope, cost, task, and required time. And what is important is also the expected benefits are addressed during this assessment phase before the actual migration. And when those are well known, those benefits, those are much easier to be reached during the migration. So migration assessment addresses holistically the whole current system. And in addition to those benefits I just mentioned, also the risk and uncertainties and also some hidden figures there might be are also openly discussed, and those can be taken into account during the migration. The idea is that the information transparency is increased and knowledge is shared before the actual migration. So it's much easier to reach a success. So I also like to point out that one of the outcome is the checklist, but also about tasks. So we also provide a sequence of tasks that should be done during the migration. And all these tasks have so much interconnections, they are dependencies between each other, and those should be discussed before the migration to avoid any surprises. So there are lots of things to discuss and agree before the actual migration. And all that discussion will happen at the migration assessment phase. Paula, I have also a question for you. Based on your experience, what advice would you give to a team about starting a cloud migration project?
Thanks, Tero. I would say that first of all, treat the cloud migration as a project of its own and create a clear project and migration plan based on a pre-study. Secondly, get the right people right from the start to get your migration project on right track from the beginning. And thirdly, follow the progress against the plan and make adjustments as there will likely be a lot of changes and unknown events along the way. Is there anything you would like to add, Santtu?
Yes, actually, even so-called lift and shift migrations, thought to be rather straightforward, require time. And if the team doesn't have the migration experience, for example, on the cloud environment, it's crucial to get the expertise outside. Also remember to open communication channels with the stakeholders. For example, Harja has tens of integrations, meaning lots of stakeholders and counterparts. And for the cost point of view, recognize the costs running two environments for a while. The period of parallel run should be budgeted, noted, and projected in the planning and scheduling phase. And lastly, rehearse the migration several times to get comfortable for the cut-hour event before the actual migration. So, from the analysis, to the project. So here you see budget, scope, timeline, and the cloud platform, Väyläpilvi. And based on the migration assessment, team created the budget and resource estimate. And with this budget and resource estimate, it was agreed with customer and timeline was given for the project. And thanks for the pre-study, thanks for the assessment, these budget and estimates were met at the end of the project. So it's crucial to have those assessments beforehand. So back to the Harja's project scope. We were thinking that migration project should be as easy as possible, and then we do enhancements and modifications afterwards. So kind of lift and shift from the application perspective. The timeline for this easy migration is 12 months. Give you some kind of idea of easy migration. And then for the platform, in the spirit of platform engineering, Harja was migrated on top of Väyläpilvi, Finnish Transport Infrastructure Agency cloud platform in English. And as cloud platform, it provides more shared services, automation and control than the plain AWS as in base. For example, identity management, backups and audit logging were implemented with almost zero effort from the Harja project perspective. They were already implemented at the platform side of things. So that's for the project. And then for the migration roadmap. It's good practice to have high-level roadmap for a project. There you see project duration, project phasing and key milestones. Paula, what kind of project plan is good for you migration project in your opinion?
Well, my advice is to start from high-level planning, encompassing main phases and key milestones on a timeline, as well as listing project targets and goals, risks, team members and stakeholders, and a rough idea how to go about them. At the beginning of a project, you likely have a lot of unknown factors and dependencies. So in my opinion, the plan should get more detailed as you go and learn more through, for example, workshops, discussions, investigations, and when the team starts executing the technical tasks. I would also like to add that specific theme-based workshops at the beginning of a project are a really good way to gain more understanding that will help you coming up with a proper project and migration plan and schedule, as well as categorizing and prioritizing items on a backlog.
Great, good points, Paula. I think it's time for the key takeaways for the migration projects. So here we can see planning, people and communication part of the key takeaways. From the planning, when it comes to planning, invest a proper pre-study, migration assessment. That is the most crucial part when thinking of migrations. Treat migration as its own project, create plan, budget and timeline for it. Create a detailed cut-hour plan, rehearse it up front with the team and stakeholders. Then the people side of things. On the people side, add migration knowledge to your team by using existing or new partners and cloud consultants. It's most important that the team gathers the expertise to go forward. Recognize all stakeholders early on and stay in touch with them, recurring meetings, etc. And remember to keep business in the loop. Going to the communication. Communication is complex. In complex projects is usually the most important and demanding area, which I think it's easier to manage when you have a communication plan to follow. You also probably need different styles of communications, forums, emails, even the threaded phone calls to the stakeholders to reach them, keep them on the loop. And lastly, inform those third-party stakeholders. There are too much than too little. People have all kind of other things on top of their head too, and you should make priority of your project and make sure it is there.
Good recap, Santtu. I have a question, or actually two questions for you. What problems did you face? And the second one, how did you tackle them?
Okay, so two-faced question. Actually, the biggest issue we tackled with the migration project was the data migration in the production environment. So we started testing the new environment early on and used production-like data, and we faced issue on the migration of the data. Luckily, we had plenty of time to address that problem and solve that, and then we're forward in schedule. So that was nice. And takeaway on that one: start testing early in the new environment and ensure proper quality management.
Thanks, Santtu. That's a good recap and answer. Also, Paula, I have one question for you about researching. How should one research a project when the migration is part of existing service or ongoing project?
That's a really great question, Tero. I would say that the key here is to get help outside of the core development team, especially if there's not enough existing technical cloud and or migration knowledge within the team. The time management of the team is a topic that I would pay attention to. It is important to reserve focus time for the team to plan and execute the migration tasks, but on the other hand, at the same time, secure successful delivery of the ongoing project and service demands. I would also at least consider division into sub-teams to alleviate pressure on single players working on all fronts at the same time. You can, of course, use team rotations if that works for you to preempt silos. Efficient information sharing and keeping everyone up to date is also a must. And communication has to be efficient not only among and between the teams, but also to the direction of customer and the stakeholders. Also, the channels that you use should be easily accessed by the team members, and they should help making communication as smooth as possible. Recurring meetings are usually needed, but the number of them should be limited, in my opinion. And all the meetings should be well prepared and led.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paula. So thank you. And Paula, Tero, to wrap up, we have now highlighted the critical importance and planned cloud migration best practices. You can mitigate the risks. Remember, success lies in throughout preparation, planning, and communication. Did I mention communication? And now I encourage you all to take these insights back to your teams and implement them in your project. So communicate, please. Thank you.